The judges are sitting with their backs turned. Blake Shelton is joking with Kelly Clarkson. John Legend is scrolling through his phone. Nobody expects what's about to happen next. A 19-year-old girl from Tennessee steps onto the voice stage. Her hands are shaking. Her voice cracks as she introduces herself. The audience can barely hear her. But then she starts to sing, and within 30 seconds, all 4 judges slam their buttons. Kelly Clarkson starts crying. Blake Shelton's jaw drops. John Legend puts his hands over his heart. This is the audition that broke the internet with over 100 million views. This is Sarah Mitchell's story, and you need to hear what happened next. Sarah Mitchell grew up in a small town called Hartsville, Tennessee. Population 2,847. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and dreams feel too big for the city limits. Her father, Marcus, worked double shifts at the auto plant. Her mother, Jennifer, cleaned houses to make ends meet. They weren't poor, but they weren't rich either. They were just trying to survive. Sarah's love for music started early. At age 5, she found an old guitar in her grandmother's attic. It was missing 2 strings and covered in dust, but to Sarah, it was treasure. Her grandmother Rose taught her the first 3 chords. By age 12, Sarah was performing at local church events and county fairs. People would stop what they were doing when she sang. There was something different about her voice, something that made you feel every word she sang deep in your chest. But life had other plans. When Sarah turned 16, her younger brother Jake was diagnosed with bone cancer. Suddenly, music took a back seat to hospital visits, medical bills, and family survival. Sarah watched her parents drain their savings, sell their car, and take out loans they couldn't afford. Jake fought for 2 years. During his chemotherapy sessions, Sarah would sit beside his bed and sing to him. It was the only thing that seemed to ease his pain. The nurses would gather outside his room just to listen. 3 months before Sarah's 18th birthday, Jake passed away. He was 17 years old. His last words to Sarah were simple but powerful. Jake told her, "Sarah, don't let my story end with sadness. Use your voice to bring joy to the world. Promise me you'll try." After Jake's funeral, Sarah's parents were broken. The medical debt was crushing them. They needed Sarah to get a job, help with bills, be practical. Dreams felt selfish when your family was drowning. So Sarah worked at a diner during the day and a gas station at night. She saved every penny she could. But late at night, when everyone was asleep, she'd take that old guitar to the back porch and play. The music was her only escape from the pain. For months, she wrestled with a decision: stay and help her family survive, or take a chance on her dreams. It was the hardest choice of her life. Finally, on her 19th birthday, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She had saved $347. It wasn't much, but it was enough for a bus ticket to Nashville and maybe 2 weeks of cheap hotel rooms. Her parents didn't understand. They felt abandoned, betrayed. Her mother, Jennifer, cried for days. Her father, Marcus, didn't speak to her for weeks before she left. But Sarah remembered Jake's words. She remembered the promise she made to him in that hospital room. So she packed one suitcase, took her grandmother's guitar, and bought a Greyhound ticket to Music City. Nashville was nothing like Hartsville. It was loud, fast, and expensive. Sarah's $347 lasted exactly 9 days. She couldn't afford hotels anymore, so she slept in her car. A 2003 Honda Civic with 200,000 miles and a broken air conditioner. Every day, she'd visit record labels, talent agencies, and music venues. Every day, she heard the same word: "No, you're too young. You don't have experience. You don't have the right look. Your voice is nice, but it's not commercial enough." After 3 months of rejection, Sarah was ready to give up. She was down to her last $15. She hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. She was sleeping in Walmart parking lots and showering at truck stops. That's when she saw the casting call for The Voice. The audition was in Atlanta, which meant another bus ticket she couldn't afford. But something inside her said this was her last chance. Her final shot at keeping the promise she made to Jake. Sarah sold her grandmother's jewelry, the only valuable thing she owned, for $67. Combined with her last $15, she had just enough for the bus ticket and maybe one meal. The ride to Atlanta took 14 hours. Sarah practiced her audition song the entire way, ignoring the annoyed looks from other passengers. She had chosen a song that meant everything to her, a song she had written for Jake during his final days. When she arrived in Atlanta, there were thousands of hopefuls waiting in line. Everyone looked more polished, more professional, more ready than Sarah. She was wearing the same clothes she'd worn for 3 days. Her guitar case was held together with duct tape. She looked like she didn't belong. But when Sarah opened her mouth to practice, something magical happened. The people around her stopped talking. They stopped laughing. They stopped everything and just listened. A girl named Madison, who was standing behind her, said, "Oh my God, you have to make it through. That voice is unreal." An older man named Robert, who had been bragging about his Nashville connections all morning, suddenly went quiet and said, "Kid, I've been in this business for 20 years. I've never heard anything like that." Sarah spent the night before her audition in the hotel lobby because she couldn't afford a room. Security kept asking her to leave, but other contestants convinced them to let her stay. They shared their snacks with her, let her use their phone chargers, and gave her encouragement when she felt like running away. The morning of the audition, Sarah was contestant number 847. She had been waiting for 6 hours when they finally called her name. As she walked toward the stage, her legs felt like jello. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. This was it. Everything she had sacrificed, everything she had risked, came down to the next 4 minutes. The stage was bigger than anything she had ever seen. The lights were brighter. The cameras were everywhere. She could hear the judges talking and laughing on the other side, completely unaware that their lives were about to change too. Sarah took a deep breath, held her grandmother's guitar tight, and walked onto the voice stage. Carson Daly introduced her to the judges, who still had their backs turned. "Please introduce yourself," Carson said. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Hi, I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm 19 years old, and I'm from Hartsville, Tennessee." Blake Shelton, still facing away, said casually, "Never heard of it, honey. What brings you to the voice?" Sarah's voice cracked as she answered, "I made a promise to my little brother before he passed away. I promised him I'd share my voice with the world. So here I am, trying to keep that promise." The judge's casual conversation suddenly stopped. You could feel the energy in the room shift. This wasn't just another audition anymore. "What are you going to sing for us today?" Kelly Clarkson asked, her voice softer now. "I'm going to sing a song I wrote for my brother Jake. It's called Still Here With Me." Sarah positioned her guitar, took one more deep breath, and started to play. The first chord rang out clear and beautiful. Then Sarah opened her mouth and sang the first line. "Jake, I know you're listening somewhere up above." Within 5 seconds, you could hear a pin drop in that studio. The judge's body's language changed immediately. Blake Shelton leaned forward. Kelly Clarkson put her hand over her heart. John Legend stopped what he was doing and focused completely on the voice coming from behind him. By the time Sarah reached the chorus, tears were streaming down her face, but her voice never wavered. It was pure, powerful, and filled with so much emotion that everyone in that room felt Jake's presence. "You're still here with me in every song I sing. You're still here with me. You gave me angel wings." At exactly 32 seconds into the song, Blake Shelton slammed his button and spun around. His eyes were wide with amazement. 2 seconds later, Kelly Clarkson hit her button, spinning around with tears already in her eyes. John Legend followed 3 seconds after that, and immediately put both hands over his heart. Ariana Grande was the last to turn, but when she did, she stood up from her chair and started clapping. But Sarah didn't see any of this. Her eyes were closed, completely lost in the music, pouring her heart out for Jake and everyone who had ever felt the pain of losing someone they loved. When she finished the song, the silence lasted for what felt like forever. Then the entire studio erupted in applause. The judges were on their feet. The crew members were crying. Even the security guards were wiping their eyes. Blake Shelton was the first to speak. "Sarah, In 20 years of doing this show, I have never, and I mean never, heard anything like that. That wasn't just singing. That was pure soul. Kelly Clarkson was crying so hard, she could barely speak. Honey, I felt every single word you sang. Your brother Jake, wherever he is, he's so proud of you right now. That was absolutely beautiful. John Legend said, Sarah, what you just did was transform this entire room. You took us all to church. That's not just talent, that's a gift. Ariana Grande added, you made me believe in every word. Your voice is stunning, but your story, your heart, that's what makes you special. But the magic wasn't over yet. All 4 judges wanted Sarah on their team. Blake Shelton made his pitch first. Sarah, I'm from Oklahoma. I understand small-town dreams and small-town struggles. I know what it's like to leave everything behind for music. I can help you navigate this crazy industry while staying true to who you are. Kelly Clarkson countered, Honey, I won the first season of American Idol, and I know what it's like to be underestimated. I see so much of myself in you. Your voice reminds me why I fell in love with music in the first place. John Legend stepped forward. Sarah, what you have is rare. You have the technical ability, but more importantly, you have authenticity. I want to help you develop that gift and share it with the world. Ariana Grande made the final pitch. Sarah, your voice gave me chills in the best way possible. I started crying because I felt Jake's presence in this room. Music that can do that is music that can change the world. Sarah stood there, overwhelmed, trying to process that all 4 judges had turned for her. Just hours ago, she was sleeping in a hotel lobby. Now, for superstars were fighting over her. But there was something else happening that would make this audition truly legendary. While Sarah was deciding which coach to choose, something unprecedented occurred. The audience started chanting, not for a specific judge, but for Sarah herself. Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. Carson Daly had never seen anything like it in the show's history. The audience was giving her a standing ovation that lasted over 2 minutes. But the most emotional moment was still coming. After Sarah chose Kelly Clarkson as her coach, Kelly walked over and hugged her. In that hug, Kelly whispered something that the cameras barely picked up, but the audience heard. Your brother is here, Sarah. I can feel him. He's so proud of you. Sarah broke down completely. All the months of struggle, rejection, and pain came pouring out. But these weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of hope, joy, and the overwhelming feeling that she had finally kept her promise to Jake. The audition video was posted on YouTube that night. Within 24 hours, it had 10 million views. Within a week, it reached 50 million. Today, it has over 100 million views and is considered one of the greatest voice auditions of all time. But the story doesn't end there. Sarah's journey on The Voice was remarkable. She won her battle round, her knockout round, and made it all the way to the finale. But win or lose, she had already achieved something bigger than any competition. She had kept her promise to Jake. Record labels that had rejected her months earlier were now calling her agent. Her hometown of Hartsville threw a parade in her honor. Her parents, Marcus and Jennifer, flew to Los Angeles for the finale and apologized for not believing in her dream. But the most important moment came when Sarah returned to the children's hospital where Jake had been treated. She performed for the kids who were fighting the same battle Jake had fought. After her performance, a 10-year-old boy named Tommy came up to her. Miss Sarah, my big sister died last year. When you sang, I felt like she was here with me. That's when Sarah knew that her voice was meant for more than just entertainment. It was meant for healing, for hope, for helping people feel less alone in their darkest moments. Today, Sarah Mitchell is a Grammy-nominated artist. She sold millions of albums worldwide. She performed at sold-out stadiums and prestigious venues. But she still carries her grandmother's old guitar, the one held together with duct tape, because that guitar reminds her of where she came from. It reminds her of the promise she made to Jake. And it reminds her that dreams don't have deadlines. Sarah's story proves that sometimes the most broken people create the most beautiful music. Sometimes the people who have lost the most have the most to give. And sometimes Keeping a promise to someone you love can change not just your life, but the lives of millions of people around the world. Jake Mitchell passed away at 17 years old, but his spirit lives on every time Sarah takes a stage. His dream of seeing his sister share her voice with the world came true in ways he never could have imagined. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, Jake is still listening to his sister sing, still cheering her on, still believing in the power of dreams that refuse to die. This is why Sarah Mitchell's voice audition will never be forgotten. It wasn't just about hitting the right notes or impressing the judges. It was about love, loss, hope, and the unbreakable bond between a sister and brother that not even death could destroy. Sometimes, the most powerful performances come from the most broken hearts. And sometimes, keeping a promise to someone you love is the greatest performance of all.